My name is Claire, and the day my sister held my 6-year-old down and mocked her to tears in front of our entire family, something in me broke. They thought I'd let it go. But now I'm going to take everything Amanda values and make sure she watches it crumble. Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. Let's see how far this reckoning reaches. It was supposed to be harmless. A Saturday garden party, full of matching sun hats, plastic wine cups, and that too loud laughter only my family could produce. I was halfway through a conversation about kale chips when I heard it, a piercing cry. Not the usual whine or tumble-knee sob, but the kind of sound that slices right into a mother's core. Lily. I dropped my drink. It hit the brick patio and shattered unnoticed. My feet were already moving. Across the lawn, past Aunt June's overwatered roses, I saw her. My daughter, my 6-year-old Lily, running from the bounce house, her little arms flailing, her face. Oh God, her face, covered in electric blue streaks. Crude lines across her cheeks, loops drawn around her eyes like a villain's mask, a crooked heart scrawled on her forehead. She was gasping, shaking, the kind of cry where no sound comes out for a few seconds. Just air, panic, humiliation. I knelt down so fast my knees burned against the lawn. Lily, baby, what happened? Who did this to you? She couldn't get the words out. Her hands clawed at her face, but the ink didn't budge, permanent marker. The kind that laughs at soap and water. Behind us, a clink of ice in a wine glass. Oh, relax, came that voice, sticky sweet and razor sharp. Amanda, my older sister. 5 years my senior and still proud of the fact she peaked as homecoming queen. She was lounging by the garden chairs, one heel kicked off, a smirk carved across her lips. It was just a joke, she added, swirling her drink. Kids should learn to take one. My breath caught. The world tipped. I stood, holding Lily against my chest, her face buried in my shoulder. Amanda, I said, each syllable coated in glass, did you do this? She raised an eyebrow like I was overreacting. Please, it was me and the twins helped. Lily wanted to play dress-up. She's 6. My voice cracked. Heads turned. The music kept playing, absurdly cheerful. You held her down, I whispered, trembling. Amanda shrugged. It just added a little flair. She takes everything so seriously, like you did. Remember that spelling bee meltdown? People around us chuckled, quiet, nervous laughs, the kind that come from not wanting to get involved. My cousin Matt looked away, pretending to adjust the volume on the speaker. I looked at my mother. She stood near the snack table, frowning but not moving, not saying a word. Something in me snapped. I want everyone to leave, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Now. Claire, come on, Amanda started, but I cut her off with a look that could have scorched the grass. I said leave. I walked straight into the house, gripping Lily tighter, brushing past startled aunts and uncles, past laughter that had turned to awkward silence. Behind me, I heard Amanda's voice float through the screen door. God, she's such a drama queen. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to scream. But Lily's tiny body trembled in my arms, and I had more important things to protect than pride. In the bathroom, I sat her on the counter and ran warm water. Her face was blotchy, her eyes swollen, the ink stubborn. No amount of soap could make it budge. I used oil, baking soda, even tried the emergency makeup remover from my purse. Nothing worked. Lily wouldn't look in the mirror. She turned her face to the wall, lips pressed together, breathing in shallow hiccups. Amanda said I wasn't pretty, she whispered finally. She said she was helping. I held back the sob that rose in my throat. My fingers trembled as I stroked her hair. You are beautiful, Lily. You are smart, kind, funny, and beautiful. She didn't answer. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about Marker. This wasn't even about Amanda. This was about what happens when cruelty gets excused. When family becomes a shield for people who should know better. When laughter covers up humiliation, and a child learns too early that some people will always protect the bully, never the bruised. I looked at my daughter, and I promised her, silently, fiercely, completely. They would never laugh at her pain again, not while I was breathing. The car ride home was silent except for Lily's sniffles in the backseat. I kept glancing at her through the mirror, her head bowed, knees tucked to her chest, arms wrapped tight like she could disappear if she folded small enough. I wanted to say something, anything. But what comfort do you give when the betrayal came from someone who was supposed to love her? Halfway down the driveway, she whispered, Mom. I turned off the engine. Yes, sweetheart. She laughed. That's all she said, but the words shattered something in me. She held me down, Lily continued, her voice trembling. Aunt Amanda and Jason and Ellie, they said I looked boring. She said she'd fix it. She said if I looked prettier, the other kids would want to play with me. I closed my eyes. Jason and Ellie, Amanda's 10-year-old twins, of course. Miniature versions of her in both cruelty and smirk. Did you tell them to stop? I asked gently. I cried, I screamed, Lily said. But Jason sat on my legs, Ellie held my arms, Aunt Amanda told them not to let me wiggle. Her lip quivered. She said it was for fun. My hand gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. At home, I carried her inside, straight to the bathroom. I filled the sink again, warm water, coconut oil this time, a soft cloth. Lily sat like a statue as I worked, careful, slow. But the marker still clung to her skin like spite, bright blue, unmoving even after the second hour. I don't want mirrors anymore, she whispered. I don't want people to see me. I looked at her, my bright, curious, funny girl, and saw what Amanda had done. This wasn't a prank. It was a wound, not just to the skin, but deeper. A voice planted in her head that said she wasn't enough, not pretty enough, not safe enough, not loved enough to be protected. Later that night, she refused to eat. I left her plate untouched on the table and sat beside her in bed, stroking her hair until she finally fell asleep. Her breathing was uneven. Her lashes were damp. I stayed there long after, watching her chest rise and fall, my heart beating harder with each minute. Amanda had always been cruel in whispers and backhanded compliments. You'd be so pretty if you just lost that baby weight. Lily's so serious. Really takes after you. I used to roll my eyes, brush it off. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight, that it would blow over. But this crossed a line I didn't even know existed. At midnight, I opened my laptop, searched for how to remove permanent marker from a child's face. Every post made my jaw clench tighter. Harmless prank, one article read. Creative fun. Harmless. I looked at the closed door of Lily's room. The girl inside hadn't looked at her own face in 6 hours. She'd buried her head under a pillow to avoid her reflection in the window. The next morning, she refused to go to school. Can I stay home forever? She asked. I crouched beside her bed. We'll figure this out together, but no, you don't have to hide, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. But they laughed, she said again. They all laughed. I held her tight. That afternoon, I bought a long mirror. I covered it in bright pink sticky notes, each one with a word: brave, smart, kind, strong, unbreakable. She watched me do it, quiet. When I finally said, you can add your own, she just looked down at her lap. I didn't push. The ink took 4 days to fade completely. But the shadows it left, they were deeper than skin. I thought my fury had peaked at the party. That nothing could be worse than watching my daughter run to me in tears, face to face, laughter all around. I was wrong. The real pain came in the quiet, in the way Lily sat by herself, not touching her crayons anymore, in how she flinched when her cousins' names were mentioned, in the questions she didn't ask, and the answers I didn't have. I wanted to storm back into Amanda's life like a wrecking ball, but I didn't. Not yet. Because if Amanda thought I was going to scream and cry and get labeled dramatic again, she didn't know the kind of woman motherhood had made me. She hadn't met the version of me that would tear apart an empire with a single, steady match. And I was just getting started. It was 3 days later when I found the first drawing. I was folding laundry in Lily's room, humming without thinking, trying to pretend everything was normal. The silence was too heavy, and pretending was the only thing keeping my chest from caving in. I reached to gather the sketch pads off the floor and paused. One of her drawings had been shoved halfway under the bed. It was a picture of a girl, or it had been. The face was scribbled out in thick, angry lines. Blue and black ink, torn through the page like she'd tried to erase it with pressure instead of erasers. Beside it, another sketch. Same girl. This one had a jagged red X slashed across the head. And then another. 6, maybe 7 in total, all faceless, all erased. Something in me went still. I flipped through the stack. No animals, no sunshine like she used to draw. Only girls with missing eyes, cut off hair, mouths drawn shut with zippered lines. One had a speech bubble that said, "Not pretty." Another, "Nobody helps." I sat down hard on the floor, clutching the papers in my lap. This wasn't just sadness, this was shame. Lily hadn't touched her dolls since the party. She didn't ask for story time. And last night I'd found the bathroom light on at 2 a.m. Her bedsheets damp and crumpled. She'd wet the bed. She hadn't done that in years. It wasn't the accident that haunted me. It was the way she'd looked at me when I found her, eyes full of apology, like she thought she'd failed me. I didn't say anything. I just changed the sheets, tucked her in again, and whispered how proud I was of her, but I couldn't sleep after that. My mind kept spinning. How many other things was she hiding? The answer came the next day. My phone rang at noon, unknown number. "Mrs. Caldwell," a soft voice said. "This is Ms. Ramirez, the school counselor at Oak Ridge Elementary. I just finished an art session with Lily." My heart skipped. "Is she all right?" "She's quiet," Ms. Ramirez said gently. "She cried during class. She didn't want to draw anything at first, but when I gave her a fresh sheet, she whispered something. I think you should know." I gripped the phone tighter. "She said, 'Aunt Amanda hates me.'" I sat down at the kitchen table. My coffee had gone cold. My pulse was ringing in my ears. "She said what?" I asked, needing to hear it again. "She said, 'Aunt Amanda hates me. She made me ugly.'" And then she started crying harder. Ms. Ramirez sighed. "Mrs. Caldwell, I think Lily may be internalizing this incident in a deeper way than most children her age would. If you're open to it, I'd like to recommend a few local therapists who specialize in early childhood trauma." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Yes, please, send everything." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. And then I called my mother. I didn't expect much, but I needed something. A sign that I wasn't crazy. That someone in our family besides me could see Amanda for what she was. She answered on the third ring. "Claire." Her voice was bright, like she'd just finished a glass of something. I didn't waste time. "Did you know Amanda held Lily down while she cried?" A pause. "Oh, honey, you're still upset about that." I stood up, suddenly nauseated. "Still upset? She humiliated my child. She mocked her face. She made her feel like garbage, Mom." "She didn't mean it that way," she sighed. "Amanda's always been a bit much, you know that, but she's fun, lighthearted. It wasn't cruel, it was playful." I nearly dropped the phone. "Playful," I whispered. "Lily's wetting the bed again. She can't look in mirrors. She thinks her aunt hates her." "Sweetheart, you were sensitive at that age too. Remember when you cried for days because your cousin cut your Barbie's hair?" "This is not a Barbie," I snapped. "This is my daughter, and no one seems to care that she's breaking." A long silence. "I think," my mother said slowly, "that you're blowing this out of proportion because you're emotional. You always were dramatic, Claire." There it was. The word again, dramatic, used like a blade, like a muzzle. I thanked her coldly and hung up. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat at the edge of Lily's bed while she slept, watching her chest rise and fall. A new kind of resolve coiled itself around me like steel. Amanda had hurt my daughter and laughed. My family had turned away. So I would do it alone. They thought silence meant surrender, but it didn't. It meant strategy. And for the first time in days, I felt something that wasn't despair. I felt clarity. Josh was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled to his elbows, stirring a pot of something that smelled like rosemary and resignation. He looked up when I walked in. One glance at my face and he set the spoon down. "What happened?" I didn't speak at first. Just sat down across from him and stared at the grain of the table. "She said I was being dramatic," I finally said. Josh didn't ask who, he knew. I told him everything, Lily's drawings, the bedwetting, the school counselor's voice cracking over the phone. I told him what my mother had said. And when I finished, there was a long, loaded silence between us. Then Josh nodded once. "Then it's time Amanda learned what real consequences feel like." I blinked. "What?" "She's hurt Lily, mocked you, and she's too used to walking away untouched." His tone was calm, measured. But his hands were steady in that quiet, dangerous way I'd only seen twice before. Once when a vendor tried to sell his company counterfeit inventory, and once when a junior partner tried to take credit for his work in front of the board. Josh Caldwell was not a man who lost his temper. He was a man who waited, and then removed obstacles like weeds from his garden. "She still works in PR, doesn't she?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "Some boutique firm. PR for fashion brands, wellness clients. That influencer brand with the green smoothies, she brags about it all the time." Josh's mouth lifted at one corner. "Right. Well, here's the thing. That firm is one of the vendors tied to Caldwell Enterprises' regional marketing network, and Amanda still likes to name-drop me to grease doors open. The way she posed at our gala last year. She's still using that photo. My breath hitched. She's using your name to keep clients? Not directly. But the implication is clear. People think we're connected, that I still endorse her. I don't. A strange relief surged in my chest. She's going to regret using our family like a shield, I murmured. Josh leaned forward, voice low. I still have contacts in the boardroom, compliance officers, legal advisors. If she's trading on my name and treating children the way she did Lily, then it's time we document it. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man, my partner. He'd built empires quietly, with steady hands and no need for applause. And now he was offering that same calm power for our daughter. I hadn't realized how alone I'd felt until that moment. I thought I'd have to do this by myself, I whispered. Not a chance, he said, reaching for my hand. The next day I started gathering proof. Every photo from the party, every voice memo, every text. I had one recording of Amanda laughing with a group of cousins, saying, Lily looked like a cartoon. I should go into makeup. There was the video Aunt June had posted to her story, Amanda with her wine glass smirking beside Lily's face. I watched it 5 times. Each time it felt like acid on my chest. Meanwhile, Josh began making calls. Quiet ones. Strategic ones. While he worked, I signed Lily up for therapy. Art-based healing sessions at a small local center. A place with murals on the walls and wind chimes in the trees. I didn't tell her everything. Just that it was a safe space for kids to talk and draw. At first, she didn't want to go. But on the 3rd day, she walked in on her own. She came out holding a crayon sketch of a tiger, striped, sharp-eyed, and wearing a tiny crown. She's me, Lily said shyly. My heart cracked open in the best way. I tacked it to the fridge like a masterpiece. That night, I created a folder on my desktop called Justice. Inside it, photos, videos, and a carefully drafted letter to Amanda's employer. I hadn't sent it yet, but I would. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't chasing revenge for the thrill. I was building something slower, stronger. Because the next time Amanda laughed, it wouldn't be at my daughter's expense. It would be the last laugh she had in a very long time. There's a kind of power in calm that most people underestimate. I wasn't yelling anymore. I wasn't pacing the floor at 2 a.m. or rereading the same text messages trying to decode meaning. That part of me had burned out. What was left was something quieter and far more dangerous. I woke up earlier each morning. I poured Lily's cereal and added extra strawberries because she liked the red ones best. I packed her lunch and slipped a sticky note inside with a tiny doodle, sometimes a cat, sometimes a crown. She didn't smile yet, but she read them. That was enough. And when the house was quiet again, I turned on my laptop and went back to work. Josh had given me a new kind of courage, and I was going to use it wisely. The first thing I did was download every video, image, and voice recording from that party into separate folders. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was organizing it. Photos of Amanda laughing with Lily in the background, her face already marked. A 10-second video from Aunt June's Instagram stories where Amanda clearly says, "Let's give her a makeover," before the screen shakes with laughter. Even a clip from later in the evening, Amanda on the patio, drink in hand, saying to someone off camera, "She'll live. Kids are resilient." My hands trembled as I clipped that one. I renamed the folder. Exhibit A, meanwhile, Josh kept calling in favors. He didn't even have to explain much. Just a few well-placed reminders about Amanda's behavior and a nudge about potential brand conflicts. Most of them didn't ask questions. They just made notes. And I knew, by the way Josh calmly closed each call, that dominoes had begun to tip. While that slow machinery turned, I focused on Lily. She'd been attending therapy at the art center for 2 weeks now. Her therapist, Ms. Delaney, was soft-spoken with silver curls and a voice that never rushed. Lily didn't say much at first, but she drew. One afternoon, Ms. Delaney invited me in for a brief chat. "She's starting to find her power again," she said gently, showing me a drawing Lily had left behind. It was a lion. Big, bold, wild-eyed, with a speech bubble above its head that read, "No!" I nearly cried right there in the office. "She says the lion is the part of her that doesn't let people touch her face," Ms. Delaney added, folding her hands. That night I bought Lily a lion plush. Left it on her bed with a note that said, "You already are one." For the first time in weeks, she hugged me before bed without being asked. But then, just as the healing started to breathe, Amanda struck again. I was scrolling through LinkedIn one morning while sipping my coffee. It was a harmless habit, checking on old coworkers, reading corporate fluff. Then I saw it. Amanda's face, front and center in a banner post. Her headline read, "Thrilled to announce a strategic PR collaboration with Caldwell Enterprises, leveraging legacy expertise for modern clients." Below it, a picture of her, standing next to Josh, from a gala over a year ago, cropped to make it look like they were presenting something together. I blinked, read it again, and again. Then I felt it, fury and fear laced together, because now she wasn't just using Josh's name in conversations. She was claiming him, publicly, professionally, implying an active partnership. My pulse thundered in my ears. I grabbed my phone and showed the post to Josh when he walked into the kitchen. His eyes narrowed. He didn't say a word for a full 30 seconds. Then, "She really thinks I won't burn this bridge." I couldn't speak. All I could think was, what if people believe her? What if this protects her? What if all of this effort meant nothing? Josh leaned over and kissed my forehead. "She's made her final mistake," he said. "Now we go further." You'd think when someone publicly lies using your husband's name, they'd at least cover their tracks. Amanda never was the cautious type. She was flashy, loud, addicted to the sound of her own voice and the thrill of a headline. So when she used Josh's photo to pretend she was in business with Caldwell Enterprises, she didn't just cross a line, she lit it on fire and danced on the smoke. But what she didn't know was how Josh handles threats. He's not theatrical, he's clinical. The morning after her LinkedIn post went live, Josh made a single call to Alan Strickland, one of his oldest colleagues and now a senior compliance officer at Barton & Hale, an auditing firm that quietly investigates vendor relationships for several major corporations, including Caldwell's current leadership. He didn't need to say much, just forwarded Amanda's post with the subject line, "Potential misrepresentation." Alan called back within 10 minutes. "I'll handle it personally," he said. Meanwhile, I started my own campaign. I created a new Gmail account, a name no one would trace back to me. I drafted an anonymous email to Amanda's PR firm's HR department. Subject: concern regarding professional conduct inside. I included screenshots of Amanda's LinkedIn post, the cropped gala photo, and a link to the Caldwell Enterprises page clearly stating Josh's retirement. Then I added something else, a paragraph that hurt to write but needed to be said. I described the party. I described what Amanda did to Lily. I didn't use names, but I included enough. A minor child was publicly humiliated, restrained, and marked with permanent ink under the supervision and participation of your employee, who then mocked the incident as a joke. The child has since required therapy for trauma. I attached a screenshot of Amanda laughing beside Lily's ink-covered face. Then I hit send. That night I stared at my laptop for an hour, wondering if I'd gone too far. But then I remembered Lily's whisper in the dark. She said I'd finally be pretty. And suddenly I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. A few days passed. Quiet, then movement. Josh received a polite but alarmed message from Caldwell Enterprises' general counsel. They'd seen the post. They were deeply concerned by Amanda's use of his image and implications of a professional tie. The vendor Amanda worked for had already been contacted, and something else, Alan Strickland, had followed up. "She's under internal review," he told Josh. "And that PR firm, they just lost their contract with Caldwell." I didn't celebrate, not yet. I just sat down with my daughter while she colored another tiger, this one standing in a field of flowers. She was humming again. That was celebration enough. But I kept watching. Amanda's socials started changing. First, the LinkedIn post disappeared. No apology. No explanation, just gone. Then her company bio was quietly updated, removing any reference to strategic partnerships. Still, no messages, no fallout until a week later. A single text. No greeting, no preamble, just, "You terrible." No punctuation, no logic, just raw spite. I stared at the screen, then turned it face down. That night I poured a glass of wine, my first since the party. I sat on the porch with Josh and listened to the wind move through the trees. Lily was asleep upstairs, her lion plush tucked under one arm. I closed my eyes and breathed in the quiet. There's a moment when the storm starts to settle, not because it's over, but because you finally understand you're not afraid of it anymore. Amanda's world was beginning to crack. And this time, she was going to feel every fracture. It happened on a Thursday, not a dramatic day. Not a thunderstorm or a holiday or anything symbolic, just a regular Thursday. I was folding towels when my phone buzzed. Josh walked in a moment later, holding his with a look that said everything before he spoke. "She's been called into an emergency HR meeting," he said, his voice calm, but there was steel behind it. "Her firm's biggest client just pulled their account, citing moral reputation concerns." I didn't breathe for a moment, then I sat down. "Are you sure?" I whispered. "She just texted my assistant asking if I put them up to it," Josh replied, eyes locked on mine. I didn't respond. It hit me then, not like fireworks, not like thunder, but like water finding its level. Slow, certain, irreversible. Amanda was finally facing consequences, not because I screamed, not because I begged for justice, but because I built it, brick by careful brick. There was no dramatic showdown, no scene. No family group text lighting up with blame or defense. Just silence. And then an hour later, my phone buzzed again. One message from Amanda. "You terrible." I read it twice. Then I laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and sudden. That was all she had. No denial, no apology, not even an insult with teeth, just a tantrum. She'd used my husband's name, exploited a child, mocked my daughter's pain. And now her world was tilting. I could picture her sitting in that glass-walled HR office, finally realizing her charm couldn't spin this into something cute. That the smirks and "it was just a joke" wouldn't hold against client losses and screenshots. Amanda never feared consequences before because no one ever followed through. But this time, she wasn't just facing a scolding. She was facing a collapse. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped outside onto the porch. The sun was just starting to dip below the trees, painting the sky in soft golds and oranges. Josh joined me a moment later. "She'll spin it however she wants," he said. "But the damage is done." "Good," I said. "Let her scramble, let her wonder who else knows, who else is watching." I took a sip and closed my eyes. Lily was upstairs, coloring in her sketchbook. A new series she'd started, tigers, lions, cheetahs, always strong, always free, sometimes with capes. The therapy was working, and so was the silence. I didn't need Amanda's apology anymore. I needed her to understand that Lily was never hers to laugh at, that she'd touched the wrong child. And now every brand that once trusted her sparkle was quietly shutting the door. Amanda had spent years spinning gold out of gossip, but now her name had weight, and not the kind that opened doors. The kind that raised eyebrows. She'd become a risk, a liability, and I wasn't done yet. There was still one person I hadn't confronted, the one who called me too sensitive, who rolled her eyes when I said Lily was hurt, who smiled while my daughter cried, my mother. And next week I was inviting her to lunch, not to argue, but to let her see for the first time what happens when a woman stops asking for permission to protect her child. I picked the cafe on purpose. Neutral ground, not too quiet, not too trendy. The kind of place where no one would raise an eyebrow if voices rose, but still close enough to home that I wouldn't need an excuse to leave early. I got there first, ordered tea, tried not to overthink it. When she arrived, 5 minutes late, as always, my mother kissed my cheek like we weren't sitting atop a volcano. "You look tired," she said gently, taking off her sunglasses. "Is everything all right?" I didn't bother with pleasantries. "I need to talk to you about Amanda," I said. She blinked, smiled faintly. Again, that word. Again, like it was a rerun, a nuisance. I took a breath. Lily's been in therapy for weeks. She still won't look in mirrors. Her drawings are full of animals with crossed-out faces. She wet the bed again. She asked me if she's ugly. My mother stirred her coffee. "She's 6, she said softly. "They bounce back. Kids are more resilient than we think." I felt my hand twitch on the table. "She's not bouncing," I said. "She's folding, and the person who did it isn't sorry. She's smug, still smug." "She didn't mean it that way," my mother said. "Amanda always jokes too far, but her heart's good. She's just a little cruel," I cut in. My mother's eyes sharpened. She's your sister. She's Lily's aunt, I snapped. And she restrained a 6-year-old and drew on her face like she was some kind of broken doll. My mother's mouth tightened. She folded her napkin into small, neat squares. You always had trouble letting things go. I sat back, stunned. Let it go. Amanda didn't draw on you, I said, my voice flat. She didn't mock you in front of 20 people. You weren't the one sobbing with permanent ink carved into your cheeks. I'm not saying it was right, she said. I just don't think it's worth tearing the family apart. There it was, the line. I'd heard it all my life. Don't make waves. Don't cause drama. Don't break the family. But the family had already been broken. I was just the one who stopped pretending it wasn't. You want me to teach Lily to stay quiet, I asked. To smile while people hurt her because they share her blood. I want you to move on, she said gently. For your own peace. I laughed then. Not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. My peace doesn't come from silence, I said. It comes from knowing Lily sees what love really looks like, that it doesn't involve humiliation disguised as play. We stared at each other. Her eyes were tired, older than I remembered. I raised you to be strong, she said, barely above a whisper. No, I said quietly. You raised me to be quiet. I became strong on my own. And with that, I stood. Left enough cash to cover my tea and hers. I hope someday you'll see what you missed, I said before walking away. Because you didn't just lose a daughter today, you lost a chance to protect a granddaughter. I didn't look back. Outside, the air was crisp. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. When I got home, Lily was waiting with her sketch pad. She showed me her latest drawing, a tiger again, but this time it was standing in front of a smaller one, teeth bared. Protecting. Fierce. She's the mom, Lily whispered. She doesn't let anyone hurt the baby one. I hugged her tight, and knew without doubt I'd made the right choice. It didn't happen all at once, healing, I mean. It came in trickles, like the soft return of color to a bruised sky after a storm. One evening, Lily ate half her grilled cheese instead of just picking at it. The next day, she hummed under her breath while coloring. Not a song I recognized, but a sound that filled the kitchen like sunlight. I didn't say anything, didn't ask her to smile, I just let it be. But the moment that really told me she was starting to come back happened quietly. We were in her room, sorting laundry, and I held up a mirror I'd found tucked under her bed. Want to hang this up again? I asked gently. She glanced at it, then looked away. I was thinking, she said slowly, maybe I can draw something on it, like a frame, so when I look in it, it looks happy. I blinked, then nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I think that's a beautiful idea. That night, she used window markers to draw tiny flowers and tigers around the edges of the mirror. When she was done, she stood in front of it and whispered something to her reflection. I didn't ask what it was. I didn't need to. At the next therapy session, Ms. Delaney invited me to stay for the first 5 minutes. Just to see how far she's come, she said with a knowing smile. I watched Lily settle into her seat, pick up a crayon, and draw 2 lions, one large, one small. They were standing side by side, tails entwined. This one, Lily said, pointing to the bigger lion, is brave even when she's scared. And who's the little one? Ms. Delaney asked gently. She used to be scared all the time, but now she has someone to roar with. She didn't look at me, but she didn't have to. Later, Ms. Delaney pulled me aside. Her confidence is returning, she said. It's slow and she'll still have rough days, but Claire, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That evening, I walked through the front door with a quiet kind of pride in my bones. Josh was waiting in the kitchen. He held up his phone. She's gone, he said. My heart skipped. Amanda, he nodded. The PR firm let her go, quietly. No announcement, but a friend at HR confirmed it. They cited misrepresentation of partnerships, ethical concerns, and client discomfort. Discomfort, I repeated. That's a sanitized way of saying the clients were disgusted. Pretty much, he said. I didn't cheer, didn't gloat. I just closed my eyes and let the weight of it sink in. Amanda had spent her whole life wearing cruelty like a perfume. Always just strong enough to sting, never strong enough for anyone to call it what it was. Until now. She's trying to get ahead of the story, Josh added. She's updated her bio, wiped half her socials, and she's claiming she left for creative differences. Let her, I said. Let her spin whatever tale makes her sleep at night. But this time she'll sleep without a title, without a salary, and without the spotlight. He gave me a look, one part admiration, one part caution. You know she won't stay quiet. I don't need her to be quiet, I said. I need her to stay irrelevant. That weekend, Lily's therapy center hosted a showcase. Nothing big. Just a modest gathering with juice boxes and soft music, where kids could pin their art on the walls and parents could walk through, clapping like it was the Louvre. Lily wore a yellow dress and a lion-shaped necklace we'd found at a flea market. She clutched my hand the whole time until she saw her corner. 5 drawings taped up in a row. One of them was a tiger wearing a crown. Its eyes were wide and wise, its body striped in orange and gold, and under its paw was a small, broken pen. She turned to me and whispered, "She's me." I felt something break open in my chest. Not pain, something else, something like relief. I knelt beside her and hugged her tight, long enough to hear her giggle. Ms. Delaney took a picture of us standing under the drawing, and for once I didn't care how I looked, because Lily was smiling. Not the shy ghost of a smile she'd worn for weeks, but a real one. Later that night, as we walked home, her hand in mine, she looked up and asked, "Mom?" "Yes, baby." "Does standing up to someone always hurt a little?" I thought for a second. "Yes," I said, "but it hurts worse when you don't." She nodded like she understood, and the leaves rustled overhead like applause. It started with a whisper, a board member here, a former client there, someone from the marketing circle asking, "What happened to Amanda?" Her name, once dropped into conversations to draw eyes, now drew silence, or worse, side glances. She didn't just lose her job, lost her access. In the world Amanda lived in, perception was currency, and hers had dropped to 0. I found out the full extent a week after the art showcase. I'd gone in to pick up Lily's newest drawing, a lion holding a heart in its paws, when my phone lit up with a message from Marissa, an old acquaintance in branding. "Hey, Claire. FYI, Amanda's trying to pitch herself as an independent consultant now, but no one's taking meetings." Words out. "You didn't hear it from me." I smiled. Not out of pettiness, but because something had finally stuck. For years, Amanda had operated like a storm, loud, fast, and always cleaning up before anyone could point to the wreckage. But this time there was no cleanup, just damage. Later that day, Josh confirmed it. "She's applied to 3 firms in the past 2 weeks, he said, glancing over his laptop. "One of them forwarded her resume to my friend at HR. She's not getting callbacks." I leaned back in my chair. "So she's being blacklisted." "Not officially, but informally. She's toxic now. You can't use a child for a joke, lie about a corporate tie, and expect the industry to smile about it." "She expected me to fold," I murmured. "She didn't expect you to be this patient," he replied. The next afternoon, my phone rang again. It was my mother. I stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. "Claire." "Mom." Her voice was smaller this time, hesitant. "I saw Amanda yesterday." I didn't speak. I just waited. She's not doing well. She's angry, said you destroyed her, that you poisoned everyone against her." My breath stayed steady. "Did you tell her what she did to Lily?" "I tried," she said. "She said she was just being funny, that Lily took it too personally." A pause. "She still doesn't get it," I said quietly. "No," my mother admitted. "She doesn't, but I do now." That surprised me. "You were right," she said, voice breaking just slightly. "I minimized it. I minimized you, and your daughter. I thought I was keeping the peace, but I see now I was protecting the wrong person." It didn't heal everything, but it was something. "I'm not angry," I said, even though I had been. "I just needed someone to stand with me just once." "I know," she whispered, "and I'm sorry I didn't." We hung up without making plans. That kind of break doesn't mend in a single call, but at least she wasn't defending Amanda anymore. That night, I found Amanda's name trending, briefly, on a local business forum. Someone had written a cautionary post about misusing professional affiliations, and though it never named her directly, the comments filled in the blanks. One even included the line, "She humiliated a child and tried to spin it into branding. Disgusting." Josh showed it to me. I just nodded. "I don't want her hurt," I said. "I know," he said. "You just wanted her to stop hurting other people." And she had. Because no one was listening to her anymore. Her voice, the one that used to dominate family dinners, parties, business pitches, had gone quiet. Not because she was silenced, but because she'd shown everyone exactly who she was, and we'd all finally stopped pretending otherwise. The next time I saw Amanda, It wasn't at a family event or a confrontation. It was in the cereal aisle. I had Lily with me. She was giggling, trying to decide between two boxes. One had a cartoon tiger, the other had sparkles. Then I turned the corner, and there she was, Amanda. She wore oversized sunglasses, though we were indoors, and her cart had only two things in it, boxed wine and mascara. Her hair was messier than I'd ever seen it, she who once said, "Presentation is 90% of power." For a second, she froze. So did I then, she smirked. But it wasn't the old smirk. It didn't have the bite. It looked tired. "Well," she said, "aren't you proud of yourself?" Lily didn't notice the shift. She had already picked her cereal. I didn't rise to Amanda's bait. "I'm proud of my daughter," I said. "She's doing amazing." Amanda's smile faltered. "Don't act like you're a hero," she snapped. "You ruined my reputation." "No," I said evenly. "You did that." She scoffed and looked away. "Whatever, it's just a setback." "Call it what you want," I said, voice steady, "but you won't come near Lily again." She blinked at that. "Oh, please." "I'm not negotiating, Amanda. I'm setting a boundary. You crossed the line, you mocked her pain, and this is the consequence." Her hands curled tighter around her cart handle. "You always thought you were better than me," she muttered. "No," I said quietly. "I just knew I had to be." Then I walked away. Lily looked up at me and asked, "Was that Aunt Amanda?" I nodded. "She looks sad," she said simply. "She made some choices that hurt people," I replied. "And now she has to live with them." Lily tilted her head. "Like a timeout," I smiled. "Exactly like that." We paid for our groceries and left. I didn't look back. Back home, Lily hung another drawing on the fridge. This one was different, still a tiger, but this time it stood alone in a field of stars. No crown, no battle stance, just stillness. She named it Peace. And for the first time in months, the house felt full of it. It was a warm, golden afternoon when Lily stepped up to the easel. Her tiny hands clutched the microphone like it was the most precious thing in the world. Around us, the Art Center's spring showcase buzzed with quiet excitement. Parents whispering, teachers adjusting displays, wind chimes tapping softly from the porch outside. Ms. Delaney smiled from the side as Lily cleared her throat. "My name is Lily," she said. "I drew this tiger because she's brave. She's not scared of loud people. She's not scared of people who laugh at her. She just keeps being strong." The room was silent. Then applause, not thunderous, not performative, just enough. Lily beamed. And I stood there, my heart swelling past my ribs. That moment, watching her stand in front of strangers and claim her strength, was the moment I realized something. This wasn't just about Amanda. It never was. It was about legacy, what we pass down, what we protect, what we refuse to excuse in the name of family or politeness or keeping the peace. Amanda had done her damage, but I had done the rebuilding. And so had Lily. When the showcase ended, we walked home under a sky blooming with lilac and gold. Lily held her tiger painting like a trophy. Josh met us at the porch, lifted her into a spin, and she squealed with laughter. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the back deck and opened my laptop. An email from the local university sat in my inbox. Subject: Mental Health Awareness Panel, invitation to speak. They wanted me to share our story. Not Amanda's name, not the scandal, but Lily's journey, the art, the silence, the small, stubborn climb back to confidence. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering. Then I replied with one word: yes. 2 weeks later, I stood on a stage in a small auditorium under soft lighting and told a room full of strangers what it meant to watch your child unravel, and what it means to fight, not just for justice, but for dignity. I ended my talk with a sentence I hadn't rehearsed. No one has the right to laugh at your pain, and no mother should ever stay silent while someone does. The applause this time. It felt like thunder. As I walked off stage, I caught sight of someone lingering near the exit. Amanda, hair tied back, jacket too big, eyes darting as if hoping not to be noticed. She didn't approach. She didn't have to. She heard me. That was enough. A year can change everything. This time last fall, I was scrubbing ink from my daughter's face, heartbroken by my family's silence. Now I stood behind a podium in a sunlit auditorium, looking out at a room full of parents, teachers, and mental health professionals. The sign behind me read, "Resilience in Childhood, Building Emotional Safety." I was the keynote speaker. It still didn't feel real. Josh sat in the front row, his arm resting gently behind Lily's chair. She wore a white sundress and a tiger necklace she refused to take off. She wasn't drawing today, she was watching me, listening. Some stories don't start with tragedy, I said. They start with jokes, with laughter that sounds harmless until you realize it's aimed at someone too small to fight back. The room was quiet. And sometimes, I continued, that laughter is coming from people who share your blood. I didn't name Amanda. I didn't need to. I shared what happened to Lily. How the damage didn't stop at blue ink. How it crept into her drawings, her voice, her sleep. I spoke about therapy and crayons and watching her rebuild her own image one tiger at a time. She's the strongest person I know, I said. And I've learned that protecting a child's spirit is not optional, it's sacred. When I finished, they stood. Applause thundered and echoed off the glass walls. I stepped down and walked straight to Lily. "You were amazing," she whispered. I knelt and hugged her, heart full. After the event, people came up to thank me. A few mothers cried. One father shook my hand and said, "I wish my mom had been like you." As we walked toward the parking lot, I noticed someone pause near the edge of the crowd. Amanda, dressed in a plain gray blouse, hair straight, face unreadable. She didn't approach. She just looked at us for once, not smirking. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't follow. I had everything I needed right beside me. Josh took my hand. Lily skipped ahead, twirling her tiger necklace. We walked into the sun together, light breaking through the trees, the past no longer chasing us. Justice hadn't just been served. It had grown into something stronger, peace.